The ballroom glittered under the chandeliers, a swirl of gold and crystal that made the sprawling penthouse feel like a fairy tale plucked from a storybook. Ethan Caldwell stood at the edge of the room, his tailored suit sharp enough to cut glass. His jaw tight as he surveyed the chaos of his daughter's 10th birthday party. 50 kids, their parents, a petting zoo in the corner with the llama that kept spitting at the caterers, and a magician who was currently setting his own hat on fire. Ethan's life as CEO of Caldwell Enterprises meant he thrived in high-stakes boardrooms, but this was a different kind of battlefield. His daughter, Lily, was somewhere in the fray, her laughter cutting through the noise like a beacon. He'd do anything for that sound, even if it meant hosting this circus. He glanced at his watch. The special guest he'd hired for the party was late. Ethan didn't tolerate tardiness, not in his boardroom, not in his life. He'd found her through a discreet agency, a woman named Clara who came highly recommended for her ability to charm kids and adults alike. A modern Mary Poppins, the agency had promised, with a knack for making any event unforgettable. Ethan didn't care about unforgettable. He just needed someone to keep the kids entertained so he could slip away to take a call from Tokyo without Lily noticing his absence. Single dad life meant juggling a Fortune 500 company and a little girl who deserved the world, and he was determined not to drop by the ball. The elevator dinged, and a woman stepped out, catching his eye instantly. Clara, he presumed. She wasn't what he'd expected. No prim cardigan or sensible shoes. Instead, she wore a vibrant teal dress that hugged her frame, her auburn hair tumbling in loose waves over her shoulders. She carried a canvas bag slung over one arm, and her smiley bright, unguarded air seemed to light up the room more than the chandeliers. She scanned the crowd, spotted Ethan, and made a beeline for him, weaving through the chaos with the grace of someone who could navigate a storm without blinking. Mr. Caldwell. Her voice was warm, with a slight lilt that made him think of summer. I'm Clara. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. Air traffic was a nightmare. I'm here to save the day, or at least the birthday party. He studied her, noting the way her eyes sparkled with mischief, like she knew something he didn't. You're late, he said, his tone clipped but not unkind. The kids are already halfway to mutiny. Can you handle it? Clara's smile didn't falter. Oh, I've handled worse. Give me 10 minutes, and I'll have them meeting out of my hand. Where's the birthday girl? Ethan pointed toward the center of the room, where Lily, in a puffy pink dress, was giggling as she tried to pin a tail on a cardboard donkey blindfolded. Her dark curls bounced with every step, her face alight with joy. Ethan's chest tightened. Lily was his anchor, the one thing that kept him grounded when the world felt like it was spinning too fast. She's adorable, Clara said, her voice softening. I'll start with her. Any special requests? Just keep them entertained, Ethan said. And don't let the llama eat the cake. Clara laughed, a sound that felt like it could melt ice. Noted. Llama, cake, no crossover. I've got this. She gave him a mock salute and dove into the crowd, her bag bouncing against her hip. Ethan watched her go, his instincts as a businessman kicking in. He was good at reading people. He had to be, in his line of work. Clara moved with a confidence that wasn't showy, just natural, like she belonged everywhere and nowhere at once. Within minutes, she'd gathered the kids into a circle, pulling props from her bag: a sparkly wand, a stuffed parrot that squawked when squeezed, a deck of oversized cards. She launched into a story about a pirate princess who sailed the stars, her voice weaving magic that had even the parents leaning in. Lily was front and center, eyes wide, hanging on every word. Ethan slipped toward the balcony, phone in hand, ready to take the Tokyo call. But he kept one eye on Clara, who was now leading the kids in a raucous game of space pirate tag. She was good or better than good. She didn't just entertain, she connected. When Lily tripped and scraped her knee, Clara was there in an instant, crouching down, whispering something that made Lily laugh through her tears. Ethan's call connected, but he barely heard the voice on the other end. He was too busy watching Clara bandage Lily's knee with a sparkly band-aid from her bag, her hands gentle but sure. The call ended, and Ethan returned to the party, expecting to find Clara winding down. Instead, she transformed the room. The kids were now building a space fort out of cushions and tablecloths, their shrieks of delight drowning out the string quartet he'd hired. Clara was in the middle of it, directing the chaos like a conductor, her laughter as infectious as Lily's. Even the llama seemed calmer, munching on a carrot Clara had slipped it. Dad. Lily spotted him and ran over, her face flushed. Clara's the best. She said I can be a pirate princess when I grow up and fly to the moon. Ethan raised an eyebrow, glancing at Clara, who was now teaching a group of kids how to steer a starship with a hula hoop. Is that so? Sounds like a solid career plan. Lily grabbed his hand, tugging him toward the fort. Come play with us. Clara said you can be the grumpy space king. Grumpy? Ethan feigned offense, though his lips twitched. I'm not grumpy. You kind of are, Clara called from across the room, her grin teasing. But I bet you'd make a great space king. Come on, Your Majesty. The parents chuckled, and Ethan felt a rare flush of embarrassment. He wasn't used to being called out, especially not in his own home. But Lily's pleading eyes were impossible to resist, so he let her drag him into the game. For the next half hour, he was the grumpy space king, fending off imaginary asteroid attacks while Clara narrated with flair, turning every kid into a hero. Ethan hadn't laughed this hard in years, his usual walls crumbling under the weight of Lily's giggles and Clara's infectious energy. As the party wound down, parents collected their kids, and the llama was mercifully led back to its trailer. Clara stayed, helping clean up streamers and stray glitter, though Ethan insisted she didn't have to. It's part of the gig, she said, tossing a crumpled paper crown into a trash bag. Besides, I had fun. Your kid's a firecracker. She gets it from her mom, Ethan said, then stopped, surprised by his own words. He rarely mentioned Lily's mother, who'd left when Lily was a baby. The wound wasn't raw anymore, but it still stung in quiet moments. Clara didn't pry, just nodded, her eyes kind. Well, she's lucky to have you. This was a great party. Ethan studied her, trying to pin down what made her so disarming. She wasn't just good with kids, she had a way of seeing people, really seeing them, without judgment. It was unsettling and comforting all at once. Lily bounded over, clutching a sparkly wand Clara had given her. Clara, are you coming back tomorrow? She asked, her voice hopeful. Clara knelt to her level. I was just here for the party, kiddo. But maybe I'll see you around, okay? Lily's face fell, and she turned to Ethan, her eyes wide and serious. Dad, is she staying forever? The question hit Ethan like a punch. He looked at Clara, who seemed as startled as he was, her cheeks flushing slightly. Lily, Clara was just here to help with your party, he said carefully. She's got her own adventures to go on. But I want her to stay, Lily insisted, her voice wobbling. She's fun, and she makes you smile. You never smile like that. Ethan's throat tightened. He hadn't realized Lily noticed so much. He glanced at Clara, who was watching him with an unreadable expression, her usual confidence softened by something else, curiosity, maybe, or warmth. Tell you what, Clara said, breaking the tension. I'll come back for one more adventure, if it's okay with your dad. Maybe we can build a real starship next time. Lily's face lit up, and she threw her arms around Clara's waist. Promise, promise, Clara said, hugging her back. Ethan didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to people slipping into his and Lily's tightly controlled world so easily. As Clara grabbed her bag and headed for the elevator, she turned back, her smile soft but knowing. You've got a great kid, Ethan. Don't be too grumpy, okay? He chuckled, shaking his head. I'll work on it. As the elevator doors closed, Lily tugged his sleeve. Dad, you have to make her stay. She's like magic. Ethan looked down at his daughter, her eyes full of hope, and felt something shift inside him. Maybe Lily was right. Maybe a little magic was exactly what they needed. The next morning, Ethan woke to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Lily singing off-key in the kitchen. He rubbed his eyes, disoriented. He hadn't hired a chef for the weekend, and Lily wasn't allowed near the stove. He threw on a shirt and padded out, stopping short at the sight of Clara flipping pancakes at the counter. Lily perched on a stool beside her, covered in flour. "Morning, sleepyhead," Clara called, her grin as bright as the sunlight streaming through the penthouse windows. "Help you don't mind, but Lily called me at the crack of dawn and begged for a pancake party. I couldn't say number." Ethan blinked, trying to process. "She broken bar called you?" "Yup," Lily chirped, waving a spatula. "I found Clara's number on the party list. She said she'd come back, and she did." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, torn between exasperation and amusement. "Lily, you can't just call people and invite them over." "But it's Clara," Lily said, as if that explained everything. Clara laughed, sliding a plate of pancakes toward him. "Don't worry, I'm not offended. Besides, I make a mean blueberry pancake. Want one?" He hesitated, then sat, accepting the plate. The pancakes were perfect, golden and fluffy, and Lily was beaming like this was the best day of her life. Over breakfast, Clara told stories of her travels backpacking through Europe, teaching kids in a remote village in Peru, even a stint as a street performer in New Orleans. Ethan listened, fascinated despite himself. Clara wasn't just a party entertainer, she was a whirlwind of experiences, each story more vibrant than the last. After breakfast, Clara kept her promise, helping Lily build a starship out of cardboard boxes in the living room. Ethan found himself joining in, taping together a cockpit while Clara narrated their imaginary mission to Mars. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about work or schedules. He was just a broken bar present. As the day ended, Clara packed up her things, but Lily clung to her hand. "You can't go yet," she said, her voice small. "What if you don't come back?" Clara knelt, brushing a curl from Lily's face. "I'll always come back for a pirate princess, okay? But I've got to go on my own adventures sometimes." Lily looked at Ethan, her eyes pleading. "Dad, tell her to stay, please." Ethan met Clara's gaze, seeing the same warmth and mischief he'd noticed the day before. He didn't know what this was, a friendship, something more, or just a fleeting memento, but he knew he didn't want it to end. "Not yet, Clara," he said, his voice steady but soft. "What if we hired you for a broken bar? I don't know, more adventures. Part-time, no pressure." "Lily's right, your kind of magic." Clara's smile widened, and for a moment, the room felt brighter. "I'll think about it, Your Majesty," she teased. "But only if you promise to smile more." Ethan Caldwell stood in the aftermath of his daughter Lily's 10th birthday party, the penthouse a glittering wreckage of streamers, half-eaten cake, and stray glitter that seemed to have a life of its own. The chandeliers cast a warm glow over the chaos, but Ethan's focus was on his daughter, who was still buzzing with excitement, clutching a sparkly wand gifted to her by Clara, the woman he'd hired to entertain the kids. Clara had been a whirlwind, arriving late in a teal dress that turned heads, charming the kids with stories of pirate princesses and space adventures, and even roping Ethan into a game of Grumpy Space King that had left him laughing harder than he had in years. Now, as the last guests trickled out and the llama from the petting zoo was mercifully gone, Lily's voice cut through the quiet. "Dad, is she staying forever?" Lily's eyes were wide, hopeful, her small hand gripping the wand like it was a lifeline. Ethan froze, caught off guard by the question. Clara, who was gathering her things near the elevator, paused, her auburn hair catching the light as she glanced over, her expression a mix of surprise and amusement. Ethan's throat tightened. He wasn't used to Lily latching onto anyone this quickly. Since her mother left when Lily was a baby, it had been just the two of them, a tightly controlled world of board meetings and bedtime stories. Clara had slipped into that world effortlessly, and now Lily was looking at him like he held the key to keeping her there. "She was just here for the party, kiddo," Ethan said gently, crouching to Lily's level. "Clara's got her own life, her own adventures." "But she's fun," Lily insisted, her voice wobbling. "And you smiled." "You never smile like that." Ethan's chest ached. He hadn't realized how much Lily noticed, how his long hours as CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, his guarded demeanor, had left a mark on her. He glanced at Clara, who was now slinging her canvas bag over her shoulder, her smile soft but unreadable. "Tell you what," Clara said, stepping closer, her voice warm like summer. "I'll come back for one more adventure, if your dad's okay with it. Maybe we'll build a starship next time." Lily's face lit up, and she threw her arms around Clara's waist. "Promise?" "Promise," Clara said, hugging her back, her eyes meeting Ethan's over Lily's head. There was something in her gaze, a curiosity, maybe, or a challenge that made Ethan's pulse quicken. As Clara stepped into the elevator, she turned back, her smile teasing. "Don't be too grumpy, Your Majesty. I'll see you soon." The doors closed, and Lily tugged Ethan's sleeve. "Dad, you have to make her stay. She's like magic." Ethan looked down at his daughter, her hope so raw it hurt, and felt something shift inside him. Maybe Lily was right. Maybe a little magic was exactly what they needed. The next morning, Ethan woke to the smell of pancakes and Lily's off-key singing echoing from the kitchen. He rubbed his eyes, disoriented. He hadn't hired a chef, and Lily wasn't allowed near the stove, not after the Great Waffle Iron incident of last summer. He threw on a shirt and padded out, stopping dead at the sight of Clara at the counter, flipping pancakes with a practiced flick of her wrist. Lily was perched on a stool, covered in flour, giggling as she tried to toss blueberries into a bowl and missed spectacularly. "Morning, sleepyhead," Clara called, her grin as bright as the sunlight streaming through the penthouse's floor-to-ceiling windows. "Help you don't mind, but Lily called me at the crack of dawn and begged for a pancake party. I couldn't say no to that face." Ethan blinked, trying to process the scene. "She broken bar called you?" "Yup," Lily chirped, waving a spatula like a scepter. "I found Clara's number on the party list. She said she'd come back, and she did." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, torn between exasperation and amusement. "Lily, you can't just call people and invite them over without asking me." "But it's Clara," Lily said, as if that explained everything. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, a mirror of Clara's own expression. Clara laughed, sliding a plate of pancakes toward Ethan. "Don't worry, I'm not offended. Besides, I make a mean blueberry pancake. Want one?" He hesitated, then sat, accepting the plate. The pancakes were perfect, golden, fluffy, with blueberries bursting in every bite. Lily was beaming like this was the best day of her life, and Ethan couldn't deny the warmth spreading through him. Over breakfast, Clara regaled them with stories of her travels backpacking through Europe, teaching kids in a remote Peruvian village, even a stint as a street performer in New Orleans, juggling flaming torches for tips. Ethan listened, fascinated despite himself. Clara wasn't just a party entertainer, she was a force of nature, her life a tapestry of adventures that made his own feel small by comparison. "How do you do it?" he asked, setting down his fork. "All that moving around, no roots." "Don't you ever want to broken bar stay?" Clara tilted her head, her green eyes thoughtful. "I used to think I'd never settle down. Too many places to see, too many stories to chase. But lately a broken bar." She glanced at Lily, who was stacking pancakes into a wobbly tower. "Lately, I've been wondering what it'd be like to stick around somewhere, or for someone." Her words hung in the air, and Ethan felt a jolt, like a circuit completing. He pushed it aside, focusing on Lily, who was now narrating her pancake tower's epic space journey. After breakfast, Clara kept her promise, helping Lily build a starship out of cardboard boxes in the living room. Ethan found himself roped in, taping together a cockpit while Clara narrated their imaginary mission to Mars, her voice weaving a spell that had Lily squealing with delight. For the first time in years, Ethan wasn't thinking about the next board meeting or the Tokyo deal hanging over his head. He was just a broken bar here, in this moment, laughing as Lily declared him Admiral Dad and Clara dubbed herself Captain Chaos. The day unfolded like a dream. Clara taught Lily how to make paper stars, each one glitter-dusted and hung from the ceiling like a constellation. They played hide-and-seek in the sprawling penthouse, Clara pretending to be a space monster while Lily shrieked and hid behind curtains. Ethan joined in, chasing them through the halls, his usual reserve melting under the weight of their laughter. He hadn't felt this light since before Lily's mother left, before the weight of being a single dad and a CEO had settled on his shoulders. As the afternoon waned, Clara suggested they take the starship outside to the penthouse's private terrace, where the city skyline glittered against the fading light. They dragged the cardboard creation out, and Clara spun a story about a meteor shower that only pirate princesses could navigate. Lily hung on every word, her wand waving like a conductor's baton. Ethan watched, leaning against the railing, the cool evening air grounding him. Clara caught his eye, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just theme of the city noise fading, the stars above sharpening into focus. "You're good at this," he said quietly. "Not just the stories." Making her happy. Clara shrugged, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Kids are easy. They just want someone to see them, you know." "Really see them?" "And adults?" he asked, his voice slower, almost hesitant. Her smile turned softer, searching. "Same thing, I think. Just takes a little more courage to admit it." Lily interrupted, tugging Clara's hand. "Captain Chaos, we need to fight the meteor monsters." "Dad, you're the shield generator." Ethan chuckled, letting himself be pulled back into the game. They battled imaginary monsters until the sky darkened, the terrace lights casting a warm glow over their makeshift starship. When Lily finally yawned, her energy spent, Ethan carried her inside, tucking her into bed with her wand clutched tight. Clara lingered in the doorway, watching with a quiet smile. "She's something special," Clara said as Ethan closed Lily's door. "You're doing a good job, you know." He shook his head, leaning against the wall. "Most days, I feel like I'm failing her. Too many late nights, too many missed moments. I hired you because I didn't want her to notice I was on a call during her party." Clara's expression softened, no judgment in her eyes. "She doesn't see it that way. She sees you trying. That's what matters." They moved to the living room. The cardboard starship still sprawled across the floor. Ethan poured 2 glasses of wine, offering one to Clara. She accepted, settling onto the couch, her teal dress swapped for jeans and a sweater she pulled from her bag. They talked about Lily, about his work, about her travels. Ethan found himself opening up in a way he hadn't in years, telling her about the early days after Lily's mother left, the struggle to balance fatherhood and ambition. Clara listened, her responses thoughtful, her laughter easy. She shared stories of her own mistakes, triumphs, the time she got lost in a Moroccan souk and ended up at a stranger's wedding. "You live like nothing scares you," Ethan said, marveling. "Oh, plenty scares me," Clara admitted, swirling her wine. "But I figure life's too short to let fear call the shots. Sometimes you just have to jump." He studied her, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, the way she seemed to carry a piece of every place she'd been. "And if you jumped here, stayed, like Lily wants?" Her gaze met his, steady and warm. "I'd need a reason, a good one." Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. A work email, urgent as always. He ignored it, something he never did. "What kind of reason?" he asked, his voice quieter now. Clara leaned forward, her elbows on her knees, her smile teasing but kind. "Something worth sticking around for. A story I haven't told yet." The air between them crackled, and Ethan felt that shift again, like a door creaking open. He wasn't sure what he was worrying her or asking her, but he knew he didn't want her to leave. "Not yet." Lily's voice broke the moment, small and sleepy from the hallway. "Clara, are you still here?" Clara was up in an instant, crossing to kneel beside Lily, who was rubbing her eyes. "Right here, pirate princess." "What's up?" "I had a dream you were gone," Lily mumbled, clutching her wand. "Don't go, okay?" Clara hugged her, glancing at Ethan. "I'm not going anywhere tonight. Promise." Ethan watched them, his heart full and aching. As Clara tucked Lily back into bed, he made a decision. When she returned, he set down his wine and faced her. "Clara, what if we hired you for a broken bar? More adventures. Part-time, no pressure." "Lily's right, your kind of magic. And I think we could use a little of that." Clara's smile widened, her eyes bright with possibility. "Part-time, huh? What's the job description, Your Majesty?" He laughed, the sound foreign but welcome, making us laugh, keeping us grounded, maybe teaching me how to not be so grumpy. She tilted her head, considering. I'll think about it, but only if you promise to smile more. Lily's voice called out again, faint but insistent. Clara, stay forever. Clara laughed, shaking her head. That kid's persistent. I like it. Ethan looked at her, the weight of Lily's words settling over him. She's not the only one who'd like you to stay. Clara's eyes softened, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she reached out, squeezing his hand lightly. Let's start with part-time. See where the story goes. As they sat there, the city lights glittering beyond the windows, Ethan felt something he hadn't in years, hope. Maybe Clara was the magic they'd been missing, and maybe, just maybe, their story was only beginning. The penthouse was a kaleidoscope of chaos, with balloons bobbing against the ceiling and a bounce house threatening to topple a priceless vase. Ethan Caldwell, CEO of Caldwell Tech, stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his sharp grey suit a stark contrast to the riot of colour behind him. His daughter, Sophie, was turning 9, and the party was in full swing. Kids shrieking, a clown juggling flaming torches a bit too close to the curtains, and a chocolate fountain that had already claimed 3 victims' shirts. Ethan was used to commanding boardrooms, but this was a different kind of high-stakes environment. Sophie's laughter, bright and unbridled, was the only thing keeping him from calling off the whole circus. He'd promised her the best birthday yet, and he'd deliver, even if it meant enduring glitter in his coffee for weeks. He checked his phone. The special entertainer he'd hired was due any minute. The agency had raved about Mia, a performer who could captivate any crowd with her storytelling and charm. Ethan didn't need captivating, he needed someone to wrangle the kids so he could slip away for a quick call with investors in Singapore. Being a single dad meant constant juggling his company, his daughter, his guilt too, and Mia was his lifeline for the next few hours. The elevator pinged, and a woman stepped out, instantly drawing his attention. Mia wasn't what he pictured. No frumpy costume or forced cheer. She wore a flowing emerald dress that shimmered under the chandeliers, her dark hair pulled into a loose braid, and a leather satchel slung over her shoulder. Her smile was warm, almost conspiratorial, like she knew the party was a disaster waiting to happen and was ready to dive in anyway. Mr. Caldwell, she said, extending a hand. I'm Mia. Sorry I'm a smidge late. Subway decided to have a moment. Ready to make this party legendary? Ethan shook her hand, noting the calluses on her fingers, a contrast to her polished appearance. You're here now, that's what matters. The kids are one sugar rush away from anarchy. Can you handle them? Mia's eyes sparkled with mischief. Oh, I've tamed worse. Point me to the birthday girl, and I'll take it from there. He nodded toward Sophie, who was in the middle of the bounce house, her blonde ponytail bouncing as she giggled with her friends. Ethan's chest tightened. Sophie was his world. The one thing that made the endless meetings and sleepless nights worth it. Mia followed his gaze, her expression softening. She's a firecracker, Mia said. Any special instructions? Keep them busy, Ethan said, his tone clipped but not unkind. And make sure the clown doesn't set anything on fire. Mia laughed, a sound like wind chimes. No fires. Got it. Let's make some magic. She gave him a wink and strode into the fray, her satchel bouncing against her hip. Within minutes, Mia had the kids gathered around her, sitting cross-legged on the floor as she pulled props from her bag: a glittering cape, a wooden sword, a stuffed owl that hooted when squeezed. She launched into a story about a knight who rode a comet to save a lost kingdom, her voice weaving a spell that silenced even the rowdiest boys. Sophie was front and center, her eyes wide, hanging on every word. Ethan slipped toward his study, phone in hand, but he kept glancing back. Mia was good, or better than good. When Sophie tripped over a balloon string and started to cry, Mia was there in a flash, producing a sparkly bandage from her bag and turning the moment into a story about a brave knight's battle scar. Sophie was laughing again in seconds. The Singapore call went smoothly, but Ethan barely registered it. He was too busy watching Mia through the glass door, now leading the kids in a comet chase game that had them moving through the penthouse like a flock of giddy starlings. Even the clown had abandoned his torches to join in, looking relieved to have someone else in charge. By the time Ethan returned, Mia had transformed the bounce house into a dragon's lair, narrating as the kids battled an imaginary beast. Sophie was the leader, brandishing the wooden sword with glee. As the party wound down, parents arrived, and the clown packed up his slightly singed props. Mia stayed, helping gather stray balloons and wipe chocolate off the walls, though Ethan told her she didn't have to. "It's part of the deal," she said, tossing a crumpled paper crown into a trash bag. "Besides, I had a blast." "Sophie's a star. She gets that from her mom," Ethan said, then paused, surprised by his own words. He rarely mentioned Sophie's mother, who'd walked out when Sophie was 2. The ache had dulled, but it never quite left. Mia didn't press, just nodded. "Well, she's lucky to have you." This was a great party. Sophie ran over, clutching the stuffed owl. "Mia, are you coming back tomorrow?" Her voice was hopeful, her blue eyes shining. Mia knelt, smiling. "I was just here for the party, kiddo, but maybe I'll see you around, okay?" Sophie's face fell, and she turned to Ethan, her expression serious. "Dad, is she staying forever?" The question hit like a rogue wave. Ethan looked at Mia, who seemed as startled as he was, her cheeks flushing faintly. "Sophie, Mia was just here to help with your birthday," he said carefully. "She's got her own adventures to go on." "But I want her to stay," Sophie said, her voice trembling. "She's the best." Mia squeezed Sophie's hand. "How about I come back for one more adventure? We'll make it epic." "Deal." Sophie nodded, hugging her tightly. As Mia grabbed her satchel and headed for the elevator, she glanced back at Ethan. "You've got a great kid. Don't be too serious." "Okay," he chuckled, shaking his head. "I'll try." As the doors closed, Sophie tugged his hand. "Dad, you have to keep her. She's like a fairy godmother." Ethan looked at his daughter, her hope so fierce it cracked something open inside him. Maybe Sophie was onto something. Maybe they needed a little fairy godmother magic in their lives. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of Sophie's giggles and the clatter of pans in the kitchen. He blinked, confused. He hadn't planned a chef for the weekend, and Sophie knew better than to touch the stove after the infamous pancake fiasco of 23. He pulled on a sweater and wandered out, stopping short at the sight of Mia at the counter, flipping French toast while Sophie, dusted with powdered sugar, tried to balance a spatula on her nose. "Morning, boss," Mia called, her grin as bright as the morning sun pouring through the windows. "Sophie tracked me down and demanded a French toast fiesta. I figured you wouldn't mind." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, torn between amusement and disbelief. "She tracked you down?" "Yup," Sophie piped up, the spatula falling with a clatter. "I got Mia's number from the party stuff. She promised to come back, and she did." "Sophie, you can't just call people and invite them over," Ethan said, though his tone lacked heat. He was too busy noticing how at ease Mia looked in his kitchen, her braid swinging as she flipped another piece of toast. Mia slid a plate toward him, the French toast golden and dusted with cinnamon. "Don't be mad at her. She's got charm. Besides, I wasn't doing anything, and I make killer French toast." "Try it." He sat, taking a bite, and had to admit it was phenomenally crisp on the outside, soft inside, with a hint of vanilla. Sophie was chattering about her plans to build a comet castle, and Mia was nodding along, tossing in ideas like it was the most natural thing in the world. Over breakfast, Mia shared stories of her life here singing in a jazz band in Chicago, teaching art to kids in a Guatemalan village, even a summer spent sailing the Caribbean on a friend's boat. Ethan listened, captivated. Mia wasn't just a performer, she was a wanderer, collecting experiences like seashells, each one shaping her into someone who seemed to belong everywhere. "How do you keep moving like that?" he asked, setting down his coffee. "Never staying in one place." "Don't you get tired?" Mia tilted her head, her hazel eyes thoughtful. "Sometimes. I used to think I'd never stop moving at too many places to see, too many people to meet. But lately, I've been wondering what it'd be like to have a home base, somewhere to come back to." Her words hung between them, and Ethan felt a spark, like a match catching. He pushed it down, focusing on Sophie, who was now sketching a comet castle on a napkin. After breakfast, Mia kept her promise, helping Sophie build the castle from cardboard boxes and old sheets in the living room. Ethan got roped in, taping together turrets while Mia narrated a tale of a comet princess defending her kingdom from space bandits. Sophie was in her element, wielding the wooden sword from the party, her laughter filling the penthouse. The day unfolded like a warm dream. Mia taught Sophie how to make origami comets, each one strung up to create a glittering mobile. They played a game of galaxy tag, racing through the penthouse's halls, Mia pretending to be a mischievous asteroid while Sophie shrieked with delight. Ethan joined in, chasing them past his sleek office and the minimalist art he'd never really cared about. For once, he wasn't thinking about the next earnings report or the pressure of leading a tech empire. He was just a broken bar present, laughing as Sophie crowned him king of the cosmos and Mia dubbed herself Star Bandit Supreme. As the sun dipped low, they moved the Comet Castle to the penthouse's terrace, where the city skyline sparkled against the dusk. Mia spun a story about a cosmic festival, complete with glowing lanterns and dancing stars. Sophie hung on every word, her stuffed owl perched on her shoulder. Ethan leaned against the railing, watching them, the evening breeze cool against his skin. Mia caught his eye, and for a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them, the city's hum fading, the stars above sharpening. "You're a natural with her," he said quietly. "She hasn't been this happy in a long time." Mia smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "She's easy to love. She's got your heart, you know, a big, but guarded." He raised an eyebrow. "Guarded? I'm an open book." She laughed, soft and knowing. "Sure you are, king of the cosmos. But I see you, Ethan. You carry a lot. It's okay to let someone share the load sometimes." Sophie interrupted, tugging Mia's hand. "Star Bandit, we need to save the lanterns from the shadow beasts. Dad, you're the shield." Ethan let himself be pulled into the game, wielding an imaginary shield as they battled shadow beasts across the terrace. The city lights twinkled below, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt undone from his responsibilities, anchored only by Sophie's giggles and Mia's infectious energy. When Sophie finally yawned, her eyes heavy, Ethan carried her to bed, the stuffed owl tucked under her arm. Mia lingered in the doorway, watching as he kissed Sophie's forehead. "She's incredible," Mia said as they returned to the living room. "You're doing better than you think." Ethan shook his head, pouring 2 glasses of wine and handing one to Mia. "Most days, I feel like I'm failing her. Too many late nights, too many calls. I hired you so she wouldn't notice I was gone during her party." Mia sipped her wine, her gaze steady. "She doesn't see it that way. She sees you showing up. That's what counts." They sat on the couch, the Comet Castle looming in the corner. Ethan found himself opening up, talking about the years after Sophie's mother left, the struggle to be both parent and provider. Mia listened, her responses thoughtful, her stories of her own misadventures, a botched art project in Guatemala, a night stranded in a Moroccan desert making him laugh until his sides ached. She was easy to talk to, her presence like a warm fire on a cold night. "You live like you're chasing something," he said, studying her. "What is it?" Mia swirled her wine, her smile wistful. "I used to think it was freedom. Now I think it's connection, finding people who make you want to stay, even just for a while." His heart thudded. "And if you found that here, with Sophie, with a broken bars?" Her eyes met his, searching, a spark of something unspoken passing between them. "I'd need a reason, something real." Before he could respond, his phone buzzed, an urgent email from his CFO. He ignored it, a first in years. "What kind of reason?" he asked, his voice low. Mia leaned closer, her smile teasing but soft. "Something worth rewriting my story for. A new adventure." Sophie's sleepy voice broke the moment, calling from her room. "Mia, are you still here?" Mia was